Okay, so today is July 26th, 2020. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority. Present by video conference is Commissioner Ford and Commissioner Fan, who can be seen on the meeting, and also Chairman Bradley. Chairman Bradley, you're calling in. Can you just acknowledge you're there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Staff in attendance is Council Meyerhoff, who is also participating by video conference, and myself, Secretary of the Authority Donahue, who is in the Albany office. The meeting today is to consider 5 requests from Council's office for summary orders of suspension. And unless Chairman, you have anything else, we'll start with the matters.
No, I have nothing else.
Okay, then the first item, 787U, Queens OP 1306900, Blue Angel Lounge Corp. Council?
Yes, good afternoon, Tom. I believe this is a matter that the chairman is recused from because he was a witness to some of the events.
Yeah, I'm going to recuse myself from this one. I'll stay on the line, but won't say anything.
Okay. So, good afternoon, members. Blue Angel Lounge Corp. does business as Blue Angel. It's on 11251 Roosevelt Avenue in Corona, New York. That's Queens County. It's a restaurant. It's been licensed. Actually, don't have that date in front of me, but at least since 2018. Actually, it is just since 2000, I believe, 17 or 18, because that's relevant here. They have some adverse history for a sale to minor, selling too late into the evening. In February of 2020, there was a violent incident in the location. Somebody broke a bottle over somebody else's head. And when we went to investigate, the police actually went to investigate, they found a Rosa Remeche in the location. And Ms. Remeche is the former owner of that premises. Prior owner whose license was canceled. And the current licensee, who the board put in there in 2018, said she had no relationship with the prior owner, and yet this Ms. Remeche was working there. So it appears that a canceled licensee is now having the new license availed to her. We did not investigate and charge that yet because that happened right about the time that we were about to go into the restrictions on COVID. So the executive order events that are relevant here begin with a report on July 18th, which you should have received with pictures. July 18th was last weekend, 11:14 p.m. Investigator Stravali went to the location. I believe he was accompanied by NYPD. While he was there, he observed patrons inside the premises consuming alcohol at tables and at the stand-up bar. You have photos of it, about 25 people inside, which is illegal in the entirety of New York State and has been since March 16th. No food service was occurring, no social distancing. There appears to be a window where people were also sitting outside. You can even see somebody in the window, in very close proximity to one of these patrons, exactly what we're trying to prevent. There's no question that whoever is serving in July knows that this is illegal by now. So those are the incidents on July 18th, which frankly would be enough to require a suspension of this location in council's office's opinion. Because we were in the neighborhood with the chairman's joint task force, this place was revisited on July 25th. What was that, last night or the night before? July 25th, I believe, was last night. At 9:38 p.m., Investigator Stravali again. While there was less activity outside, there was still, inside, there were people being served, but they were served drinks without food. That was also observed on July 18th. And when Investigator Stravali went inside, as you can see from the pictures that you have, the location is not set up to provide food. The kitchen is completely closed, and there was no cook on site. It also looks like there's some health and fire dangers associated with the kitchen. Investigator Stravali found a bunch of additional issues, violations, including that there was no New York Forward reopening plan on site. Certainly, this is a location that's not following any New York Forward plan that New York City set up. They continue to have people sitting inside. These are violations of Executive Order 202.3, 202.52, which concerns food, requiring food with drink, no inside service, not a licensee we can trust to follow the law, imminent risk to public health and safety, and we ask for a summary suspension.
Before I turn to the commissioners, I did neglect to mention that Deputy Commissioner of Licensing Roberts is also participating on the meeting by telephone. Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
No questions.
All right, then I'll go look for your vote then, Commissioner Fan.
Our investigators and our own chairman himself at this point are risking their lives during the pandemic to enforce the law. It's very disturbing that this licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive order, at least since July 18th and probably before that. And for violating the governor's executive order, including no indoor dining, service pass curfew, and non-bona fide, no food, no masks, no social distancing, and window bar with employees and patrons mixing together. This location is a clear violation of the executive orders and standing laws, and due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to impose an emergency order of summary suspension to protect this licensee's patrons and employees.
Commissioner Ford.
The amount of people inside is disturbing. It looks like it could be pretty much any normal night of business in normal times. So there's indoor consumption going on, people not wearing mask coverings, no social distancing, open past the 11 p.m. curfew, no food being served. As a matter of fact, the kitchen in the basement, the stove was rusty, wasn't hooked up to anything, gas or anything like that. So it's obviously they weren't even preparing food even on a regular day. So for all those reasons, plus what Commissioner Fan has stated, I vote to summarily suspend as well.
Okay, then the next item is 787B, Queens OP 1274165, Restaurant de la Mora, Inc.
Good afternoon, members. Council's office is seeking a summary suspension. Well, I'm Lisa Ogden, Deputy Counsel here. Thank you. Council's office is seeking a summary suspension of the license issued to Restaurant de la Mora, located on Northern Boulevard in Queens County. This license was issued on November of 2013, and during that time, the licensee has had numerous violations sustained against them. SLA records show that in the past 5 years alone, they've been charged with having unlicensed security, improper conduct pertaining to having workers' compensation insurance, disorderly premises, noise, operating outside the terms of its license by permitting dancing, a DJ, and employing security, and failing to comply with various community board stipulations. Serving after hours was one of them. And the licensee has already paid approximately $25,000 in fines just for these violations. Prior to the instant matter, which is the most recent conduct that I'm going to get to in just a minute, this licensee already has several charges pending with the SLA that are violations of the governor's executive orders.
Lisa, hold on just for a second. Commissioner Fan, are you still there? Commissioner Fan? Commissioner Fan, did we lose you? Are you there? All right, we can proceed with just Commissioner Ford and the chairman. I think we've temporarily lost Commissioner Fan. So
I just sent her a
Commissioner Chairman, if you don't have any problem with that, we'll just proceed with Commissioner Ford. And
No, I'm
yourself in
fine.
this matter. All right,
Continue?
go ahead.
Okay.
yes.
I'll just back up a little bit in case anybody lost this information, but I had said that the licensee, due to some adverse history in the past 5 years, has already paid approximately $25,000 in civil penalties. And then the licensee currently has several matters pending against them now that relate to violations of the governor's executive orders. Those matters are contained in SLA records, and I'll just briefly touch upon them. On May 2nd of this year, which was during phase 1, when only takeout orders were permitted, the 115 precinct in Queens, they observed a group of people drinking alcohol inside. At that time, the police, they disclosed and they warned them, and the SLA charged the licensee. On June 26th, this was during phase...
Commissioner Fan? I see we have you
I'm
back.
sorry, my laptop went into a sudden restart situation, but I'm back.
Okay. Okay.
Would you like me to back up?
Do you need Ms. Ogden to go back and repeat anything? I know you have the
I mean, if
record.
you can quickly just summarize, but I can hear you started talking about June 26th, which it's pretty far back, so.
Okay, I can just quickly summarize what I think you missed. I had said that in the past 5 years, the licensee has been charged with numerous violations, and they were sustained, and in total, they've paid approximately $25,000 in penalties already. And currently pending are several matters in which the licensee has been charged with violating the governor's executive orders, and I was going to briefly touch upon them. The one that I believe you missed was May 2nd. That was during phase 1. That's when basically only takeout orders were permitted, and the police, the 115 precinct in Queens, they made a visit. They observed people drinking inside. At that time, they gave them a warning, and the licensee received charges from the SLA. Then on June 26th, which was during phase 2, which permits some outdoor service, but still nothing inside. At least seven patrons were observed standing and congregating and lingering in front of the establishment. They were consuming bottles of beer. No takeout was observed during that time. Then on July 13th and July 14th, which would have been during phase 3, again, some outdoor service is permitted. On both of these dates, after 11 p.m., which is after the New York City mayor's curfew, Police observed over 10 patrons on the 13th and over 20 patrons on the 14th, standing, some sitting in chairs at tables within 100 feet of the establishment drinking. Then the record before you today, it provides a referral from the police on June 10th, where the police conducted an inspection and they observed service of alcohol to go without food. Again, the police made their presence known and advised they must serve food and serve in sealed containers and with food. Another referral is before you. It's included. It's from the governor's task force, in which the investigator states that on July 3rd, waitresses were not wearing masks. And most recently, on the 18th, SLA investigator Stravali, as a part of the chairman and the governor's task force, he submits the attached reports and pictures, and they show that he made a visit at approximately 9:20 p.m. He observed that the licensee permitted patrons to stand and congregate while drinking beverages in front of the establishment. They're not social distancing, they're not wearing face coverings. Investigator Stravali makes another visit later that night at approximately 11:45 p.m. And again, he observed that the licensee is permitting the violations to be continued. The licensee is permitting outdoor seating despite the mayor's 11 p.m. curfew. And specifically, he observes at least 30 patrons were standing and or seated in front of the establishment while consuming beverages, all while not social distancing. So the licensee is being charged with violations of the executive orders of Executive Orders 202.38, 0.43, 0.16, 0.23, as well as failure to supervise, focal point, and sustained pattern of noise and disorder. This establishment is in an area that's been requiring a lot of police presence due to disorderly activity, and the NYPD has indicated to us that this particular establishment is a problem. Based on that and all the information contained in SLA records, as well as what's before you today, it's clear that this licensee has chosen to completely disregard the governor's executive orders. And this is a place that's willing to serve illegally. We need to put a stop to it, so we're respectfully requesting that this license be summarily suspended to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the community at large. Thank you.
Council, you still with us? We lost your video.
I am here. I just turned the video off.
Okay.
For a moment.
Just checking. All right then. Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
I'm good. No questions.
Chairman Bradley, any questions?
No questions.
I'll turn to the vote then. Commissioner Fan.
This licensee has committed multiple violations. So, including but not limited to offering indoor service, serving past the curfew, drinking outside in large groups, lack of PPE, and overall it's a waste of valuable investigative resource of the agency. And this license has already been charged multiple times for violations of the executive orders and still continue to serve alcohol in violation of standing laws. And due to the immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
Am I muted here? No.
You're good.
As Commissioner Fan has stated, this licensee has already paid $25,000 over the past 2 years. Other pending matters in this area has become seemingly a focal point for police attention. NYPD has given them warnings and then had to come back again. Open past curfew with people consuming outside within 100 feet. The licensee was cited twice for violating the executive order previously. Open past 11 p.m. curfew, everything else. So I vote to summarily suspend.
Chairman Bradley.
I vote to summarily suspend on the same grounds.
All right then, the next item, 787W, Queens OP 1313038, Alzate Arroyo's Corp.
Good afternoon, members. This is Kayla O'Donnell on behalf of Council's office. Council's office is seeking an emergency order of summary suspension for licensee Alizate and Hoyos Corp. Doing business as El Patio. This license was issued 1 year ago today to operate as a restaurant. The premises is located in Queens, where inside dining continues to be prohibited. In the last 30 days, the licensee has been caught violating the governor's...
I need to interrupt you. I need to recuse myself from this as well. I was there last night. Thank you.
All right. So the last 30 days, the licensee has been caught violating the governor's executive order 4 times: June 26th, June 30th, July 18th, and July 24th. On June 26th, at least 11 patrons were observed inside the premises for consumption. 1 was not wearing a face covering. A notice of pleading charging the licensee with violating Executive Order 202.3 and failure to supervise was mailed to the licensee on July 8th. On June 30th, 4 employees were observed inside the licensed premises not wearing face coverings. The licensee is being charged with violating Executive Order 202.16 on this date. Despite being previously warned, on July 18th, the licensee was found to again be serving patrons inside the licensed premises. As the photos in the record before you reflect, at least 9 people were found to be dining inside the premises. Investigators also found 4 employees not to be wearing face coverings. Additionally, there were still patrons being served outside the premises at 11:47 p.m. after the mayor's 11 p.m. curfew. 2 patrons can be photographed standing next to a table, and at least one of them is not wearing a face covering. The SLA investigator also noted an extension cord being used in the front dining area. The licensee is being charged violating Executive Orders 202.3, 202.38, 202.43, and 202.16, as well as failure to supervise in connection with this date. Despite 2 prior warnings, on July 24th, this licensee was again found serving people inside the licensed premises. As the photos reflect, a male and female were seated inside the premises at the bar to bottle of Corona. Just as was found on June 26th, June 30th, and July 18th, again, 4 patrons were not wearing face coverings. On this date, some employees recognized the investigator, Charles Cervalli, and ran to the back to warn other employees to put on their face coverings. Additionally, 2 employees turned their backs to Charles Cervalli to put their masks on before he could take a photograph of them. Despite being warned previously about using the SLA investigator again found the licensee to be using permanent wiring on this date. The cord was being used to power a speaker playing music onto the street and outdoor dining area. The licensee is being charged with violating Executive Orders 202.3, 202.16, 202.43, as well as using an extension cord as permanent wiring in violation of the New York City Fire Code and failure to supervise. The licensee has shown a clear disregard for the governor's executive orders. It has continued to serve patrons inside despite continued warnings, and the licensee's employees clearly refused to wear face coverings. The executive orders were put in place to prevent further spread and resulting death from the coronavirus. By failing to comply with the orders, the licensee is not taking the steps necessary to prevent the public from contracting this very serious virus. These blatant, continued violations support the need for an emergency summary order of suspension to protect the health, safety, and welfare of both the inhabitants of the area of the licensed premises and the community as a whole. Thank you.
All right, then, Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I don't have questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions either.
All right, then, we'll turn to the a vote. Commissioner Fan?
This licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive order and multiple other SLA and ABC laws. They've continued to serve indoors, even though they have been warned multiple times that that is not allowable. Service parts the curfew and drinking outside in large groups, not sufficient usage of PPE. And overall, it's a waste of valuable investigative resource by this agency. So I mentioned this licensee has already been charged multiple times and have been warned many, many times, but still continue to serve alcohol in a manner that violates standing laws. It's a clear disregard for this authority and the governor's executive order, and due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this liquor license.
Commissioner Ford.
I vote to summarily suspend for all the same reasons.
All right, then we'll move on to the next item. 787X, which is Queens OP 1260848, Ruby 1909 Corp. Chairman Bradley, can you participate in this one?
I do
Can
not.
you say the name again?
It's Ruby Rosa. I do not believe you can participate.
I'm recusing myself. Thank you.
Okay, then. Just turn back over to counsel's office then.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, this is Ruby 1909 Corp. doing business as Ruby Rosa on 8407 Northern Boulevard in Jackson Heights. This was part of the chairman's detail, and therefore he can't participate. The licensee has been in business since about 2013. We have discipline, adverse history in 2017, 18, and 19 for noise, failure to conform to the application. There's an NOP, a new notice of pleading that has not yet come to hearing, that went out on January 20th for an unlimited drinks offering and illegal hookah use. On March 13th, which is just a few days before the restrictions of COVID-19, investigators Travali and the NYPD did a joint inspection and found, I think, as many as 9 or 10 other violations that we have not yet charged. So Ruby Rosa was in trouble already. On June 26th, in 8:18 p.m., that's the first executive order violation that we have, or issues we have. Tables in front. There were tables in front of the location, so they were purportedly operating under what was then the new outside service rules, but they had no New York forward plan on site. There was a disc jockey playing music, which was contributing to lingering. People consuming, standing, a female employee with no face mask. The next incident was July 13th. Police officer Mo Sardino from the NYPD at 11:18 p.m. As the precinct in Queens had been doing at this period. They would run a sweep after 11 o'clock and found 10 people standing in front and or sitting after 11 o'clock, no social distancing. So those two were already on the table before we got a report last weekend from investigator Travali, which is part of the materials and pictures that you've received. At 9:23 p.m., 11 individuals standing and congregating in front of the premises, no facial coverings, no social distancing, music playing, essentially an outdoor bar scene. And you have the pictures there. Investigator Travali went back at 11:42, a little later that evening, and there were now 25 people standing in front of the location, consuming beverages, no social distancing, no facial coverings. It was well after 11 p.m., curfew. The officers from the 115th precinct, who have really done a great job in coordinating with us on this detail, were there and accompanied us in this operation. You've got people standing and drinking with smiles on their face, practically posing for the pictures here. We continue to have a serious problem in New York City with customers literally unwilling to follow the law And really the only recourse that the state or the state liquor authority has is to cut off the switch on who's serving them. And this is a place where that needs to happen. We have one more report from July 24th. So that the last one I just mentioned was last weekend. Now this weekend, the chairman's detail was there. And at 10:18 p.m., you have more pictures. You see people literally standing and strewn across the street and around this place, in and amongst the people who are sitting at tables. I guess the report counts 25 people standing in front, consuming beverages, not exercising social distancing, not wearing facial coverings. One person who looks like an employee standing inside without a mask, speaking to the patrons. This is a party scene on the street, and Ruby Rosa is causing it. And again, the pictures speak for themselves. This is exactly the kind of thing the restrictions are in place to prevent. And licensee can't be counted on to follow the law. We need a summary suspension here, and we ask for one. Thank you.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
Council, can I just clarify? You said that there was a joint inspection on March 13 and those violations have not been sent out. Has this licensee otherwise have they been cited for other executive order violations like the June 26th? Did that end in an actual charge or were they warned?
I don't believe that we have charges out on this place.
Okay.
And the joint inspection, yes, we didn't charge that because given the restrictions and our ability to hold hearings and the number of cases that we would have if we assumed regular practices, we have not been moving forward with non-executive order cases while we.
Yeah, I understand. Pipeline.
Right.
They do not have an EO ordered case pending either.
No, we do not have one.
I understand.
This is one that for some reason did not hit our radar soon enough because their earlier conduct certainly would have been chargeable.
Okay.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
What was the date of that mutual task force visit again?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What was the date of that task force visit?
March 13th. Well,
March?
The March 13th visit was a joint inspection of the SLA and NYPD because of concerns about the health conditions and safety conditions in the location.
All right.
The June 26th was an NYPD visit with Investigator Stravali, and July 13th was the NYPD on its own, and then the more recent ones were joint between the SLA and the NYPD.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then I'll turn to Commissioner Fan for her vote.
Since he has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive order, by now all licensees should have a clear understanding that the governor intends for outdoor dining and not outdoor drinking and not outdoor clubbing scenes. This licensee have allowed DJs to play loud music outside and patrons to gather outside in large groups without social distancing, without masks, and serving them past curfew. And in fact, gathering larger and larger groups as time went on in the night. This licensed establishment is a clear waste of valuable investigative resource that we have at the current time. And due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
This licensee, as Commissioner Fan noted, was creating a party scene. It surprises me that establishments behave this way right now, knowing that they're not supposed to, and the kind of attention that it's going to attract. And so, anyway, I'll just cut to the chase. I vote to summarily suspend as well.
Good, then the next item I have is 787Y, Queens TW 1315438. This is Mr. Pancho's Cafe Inc. Margarita, you're muted. Your mic is muted.
Good afternoon, members. This is Margarita Marsico. On behalf of Council's Office, I'm requesting that the members issue a summary order of suspension as to Mr. Pancho Inc. located at 86-09 Roosevelt Avenue, Jackson Heights, New York. This premise, I believe, was also part of the chairman's detail last night in the 115 precinct.
Hold on, I'll give you this. Chairman, do you have to recuse yourself from this one?
Yes, I have to recuse myself. I was there last night.
Okay.
Okay. So, by way of background, this premise is owned by a Robert Perez. When he applied for a liquor license before the members, he boasted that he was the owner of Illusion Tavern Corp., Sport TV Station LLC, and El Rinconcito Ranchero Corp. He said he was going to apply the same zero tolerance policy concerning ABCL violations as he has at all his other premises. He further said in his application, in his establishment questionnaire, that he is an experienced operator with a good track record, and he pledges to be a good licensee and a corporate citizen. That was in April of 2019. Right out of the gate.
Hold on.
I'm sorry?
Can everybody, hold on just for a second. Because all right, we got it, we kind of lost the feeds for a second. Can everybody hear and see everybody else? Great, okay.
I can hear, yes.
Yeah, we went offline there for a second, but we're
No.
coming on back.
Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, we got everybody else back now.
Yeah, there's some bandwidth issue though, because I see circles on some people. Can I ask the prosecutors who have already presented to sign off, just so we can, I guess it's just you, Kate. They'll limit the bandwidth. Thank you.
Well, right now we're okay. We
Okay.
had that momentary glitch, but we got everybody back on now. And videos. Well, actually, we're losing you right now, so. All right, Gary, okay. Go ahead, Margarita.
Okay, so I'll proceed. So Mr. Perez represented, he was very experienced and would be following the law and be a good corporate citizen. And that was in April 2019. And he was licensed to operate this beer wine tavern on Roosevelt Avenue. So right out of the gate in August of 2019, he failed an underage compliance check on August 1st at 10:40 p.m. One of his agents sold a Corona bottle to an auxiliary police officer who was 20 years old, and the arresting officer observed patrons dancing. They were not authorized to have dancing. That case is pending. Then on August 23rd of 2019, he failed a follow-up compliance check where 2 bottles of Heineken were sold to a 20-year-old auxiliary police officer. A month and a half later, on October 2nd, 2019, there was follow-up enforcement by the precinct.
This is too much detail. We're losing.
All right, hold on. We seem to have. Can everybody see everybody else again? We seem to have lost a few people here.
I'm still here.
I'm still here.
Yes, I'm
Vince
here.
is still here.
I see myself and I see other people popping in and out.
I've got we seem to have everybody on our live stream, but with no sound.
Tom, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Commissioner Ford, can you at least hear me?
I hear you, I hear the chairman.
Great. Commissioner Fan, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear everybody.
All right, and Council, can you hear everybody?
I can.
All right, so we'll go ahead then, absent what may or may not be the video. So go ahead, Margarita.
Okay.
Finish.
So just to conclude, I'm just bringing this up because these are very serious matters that are pending before the full board. And the licensee has offered a significant penalty in connection with these matters. The third failed compliance check was on October 2nd of 2019, and there were numerous violations. He had unlicensed security guards, was storing liquor in the basement when he wasn't authorized to have liquor. There was no food being served, so they were non-bona fide, and numerous other violations. So then I guess the pandemic hit, so I don't know how much more enforcement activity the 115 could do. But since that time, Investigator Stravali went on July 18, 2020 at 10:10 p.m. in an undisclosed inspection, and he observed 15 people standing, not exercising social distancing and lingering at the location. At least 6 patrons were not wearing masks. The patrons were standing and drinking. A security guard was not wearing a mask around his chin. Patrons were seated on the sidewalk at tables in front of Planet Fitness, which is a neighbor. It's not in front of the frontage of the licensee. And one individual was allowed to drink a bottle concealed in a dark bag. You can see it in the photograph, which is consistent with this licensee's practice of apparently either offering liquor, which is beyond his license, or permitting people to drink liquor. And no food is visible, which is also consistent with the prior inspection that occurred on October of 2019. And I would note that, you know, although this licensee's, the first inspection was undisclosed, Mr. Perez did get a violation for his other premise that he was bragging about, El Rinconcito Ranchero Corp., which is also in the 115. That premise did get an EO violation on June 28th. They were issued a notice of pleading, which was served on Mr. Perez around July 6th. So he's been on notice about the EOs, and as you've all heard, this 115th precinct is very disciplined about communicating with all the licensees. The Roosevelt Task Force is also involved. They communicate, reinforce, and just give them information. So there's absolutely no way Mr. Perez was unaware on July 18th that he was not permitted to have people standing, lingering, drinking, not eating food, and, you know, allowing his employees to not wear masks. There was a follow-up inspection on July 25th of 2020 at 11:44 p.m. So this time, Mr. Perez is violating the DOT violations, which required him to close at 11. And as we know from prior presentation, I'm sure Lieutenant Sarassi told him that 11 p.m. it's a wrap. He's not supposed to even have chairs or tables out after 11 p.m. So once again, Investigator Stravali took photographs and observed 30 people standing and sitting in front of the premise, consuming alcohol. No food is visible at any of the tables. 3 employees were not wearing masks. The patrons were not exercising social distancing, and they were not properly wearing the face masks. Now, I would just note that, you know, Mr. Perez's menu is not extensive. He told us he was going to be serving pizza, personal pizzas of different types, and different types of sandwiches, like meatball sandwiches. But you don't see anything on these tables, which is consistent with his, with the pattern that was established from the first inspection in October of 2019. So he's an experienced operator. He has to be held to that standard that he has set for himself. He said he was going to show zero tolerance. Fortunately for him, he's in a precinct where he has the benefit of very good police officers who are very communicative and would give him any information he needed. He was put on full notice through the violation that was brought against El Riconcito. I would note that there's more violations down on the pipeline for El Riconcito aside from that June 28th violation that they were caught violating the EO. So I believe this premise presents a imminent threat to the public's health and welfare, and for those reasons I'm requesting that you issue the order of summary suspension and under the EO of 202.43, 202.38, 202.16, and failure to supervise.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I do not have any questions.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
No, I do not have any questions.
And with that, I'll turn to your vote. Commissioner Fan?
As council mentioned, this licensee has multiple ongoing violations of ABC laws and has committed multiple violations of the existing governor's executive order by allowing outdoor service, service past the 11 p.m. curfew, drinking outside the establishment in large groups, taking over frontage that do not belong to the licensed premise, insufficient mask wearing, no food, and it's overall a waste of valuable investigative resource. And the licensee should really know better because they have a long history with the authority. And this is a clear disregard for the standing laws, and due to immediate threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford?
I think Commissioner Fan pretty well summed it up. For those reasons, I vote to summarily suspend as well.
All right, then I have no other items. Chairman Bradley, are you still with us? He may have left since he recused himself. That being said, since I have...
I am still with you, yes.
All right, do you have anything else you want to bring up before we...
No,
adjourn?
nothing else.
All right, with that then, this meeting is concluded. Thank you all for being together for us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, members.